Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu, and with me is Aditi Lumba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. UN Security Council condemns attack on UN premises in Herat, calls on Islamic Republic and the Taliban to engage meaningfully in an inclusive peace process. Chief of Staff of U.S. Army General James C. McConnell arrives in India on a two-day visit. Germany becomes fifth country to sign International Solar Alliance Framework Agreement. In Tokyo Olympics, Indian wrestler Ravi Dahiya beats Nariswam Sanayev of Kazakhstan in freestyle 57 kg men's semi-finals, ensures a medal. Boxer Lavlina Borgohain bags bronze medal in welterweight category. Athlete Neeraj Chopra qualifies for men's javelin throw finals. Indian men's hockey team to take on Great Britain for a bronze medal on Thursday. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and to help others to get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact National Helpline number 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. The United Nations Security Council has condemned in the strongest terms the attack against personnel and premises of the UN in Herat, Afghanistan on 30th of July, which resulted in the death of an Afghan security force guard and several injured. The members of the Security Council expressed their deep concern about the high levels of violence in Afghanistan following the Taliban's military offensive and called for an immediate reduction of violence. The members of the Security Council called on both the Islamic Republic and the Taliban to engage meaningfully in an inclusive, Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace process in order to make urgent progress towards a political settlement and ceasefire. They also expressed deep concern about the number of reported serious human rights abuses and violations in communities affected by the ongoing armed conflict across the country. The members of the Security Council condemned in the strongest terms all instances of terrorism and deliberate targeted attacks against civilians. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Afghan President Ashraf Ghani have condemned the ongoing attacks by the Taliban and pledged to remain in close contact going forward. State Department spokesperson Ned Price in a statement said that Blinken spoke with Ghani to reiterate the strong and enduring U.S. commitment to Afghanistan. Both the leaders emphasized the need to accelerate peace negotiations and achieve a political settlement that is inclusive, respective of the rights of all Afghans, including women and minorities, allows the Afghan people to have a say in choosing the leaders and prevents Afghan soil from being used to threaten the United States and its allies and partners.
An attack on the Afghan Defense Minister's house in Kabul has left at least 8 dead and a major bombing by militants in the city for nearly a year. The minister Bismillah Khan Mohammadi was not at home on Tuesday night as gunmen detonated a car bomb and fired shots near the heavily fortified Green Zone. His family was evacuated and 4 of the gunmen killed, officials said. The Taliban said that they were behind the attack. The group also warned of more attacks against government leaders. It comes as fighting rages in other cities after foreign troops left the country. The UN Security Council has called for an immediate end to the violence. More than 20 other people were reportedly wounded in the incident. Police say 4 of the 5 attackers were also killed after they managed to enter the minister's villa. The Interior Ministry said it was a suicide bomb attack. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on developments in Afghanistan and role of UN. In conversation are Atul Aneja, International Affairs expert, and Manas Pratim Bhuyan, journalist.
Mr. Aneja, we have seen escalating violence in Afghanistan in the last few weeks. Since the U.S. started withdrawing its troops on May 1, the Taliban has ramped up its offensive in an effort to control more areas in Afghanistan. How do you see the overall situation in Afghanistan and its impact on the regional security?
Well, Manas, frankly, to me, it has not come as a surprise. There were people who thought that Taliban has changed and that after the Doha Accords, they would be more into negotiations with the government to arrive at transitional government or a new government for Afghanistan. But that has not been the case. What is demonstratively clear as this is the old Taliban in essence, and that it is looking for a military solution to the Afghan crisis after the US withdrawal from that country. As in 1996, when the Taliban had overrun the entire country, Pakistan was the main backer for Taliban. That has also not changed, and we see evidence. In fact, videos are emerging of active support by the Pakistan military to the Taliban into this onslaught. So I think for the countries who thought otherwise, this has been a big reality check. We are going ahead for a military confrontation. Unfortunately for the Taliban, it is not the same situation in 1996 because the Afghan National Defense Forces have learned how to fight. So there's going to be a bloodbath, heavy fighting, city by city. We already see Kandahar, Lashkargah in Helmand province, and then Herat. These are the cities where already fighting has escalated. And it is the battle of the cities which has emerged. So I think there's going to be a battle ahead. And I do hope that the Americans who had faith in the Doha Accords, that the Taliban would abide by the Doha Accords, take a relook. What the Afghan National Defense Forces, Manas, right now need is air support. And if the US can provide it, I think then it is not a done deal that the Taliban will be able to repeat 1996 and take over the entire country. We are in a situation of deep flux, but as we can see that this is a time for fighting. We are away from the negotiations big time. And a lot of things are going to be decided on the battlefield.
Yeah, in fact, in the midst of evolving security situation in Afghanistan, Afghanistan's Foreign Minister Mohammad Hanif Atmar on Tuesday actually spoke to our Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and discussed the possibility of convening an emergency session of the UN Security Council to explore ways to stop Taliban violence and Taliban's widespread abuses of human rights in Afghanistan. So how do you see this move, considering the fact that India holds the presidency of the United Nations Security Council for the month of August and Afghanistan calling for an emergency session of the UN assumes significance? How do you see this telephonic conversation as well as the proposal by the Afghan Foreign Minister to convene an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council?
Banas, the major powers of this world, including Security Council members, and India are now heading the presidency, have been shocked by the Taliban behavior in the sense that they are reneging from their pledges. The whole Doha Accord was about negotiations between Afghan parties following withdrawal of US forces, and also the US was to stop its air bombings against the Taliban and confine it only to the international terror groups, which have once again, unfortunately, taken root in Afghanistan. So the whole world has been shocked by this behavior. So I think that is what is causing this flurry of diplomatic action. You mentioned about the Afghan foreign minister talking to our Minister of External Affairs, Mr. Jaishankar. Parallelly, there has been talks between Anthony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, and President Ghani. And before that, if you recall, President Ghani had visited the White House and had talks with Joe Biden. So I think after that, you see these B-52 bombings which are taking place, especially in Herat, which were proved critical. So I think everyone is trying to reconfigure the situation and to revisit that what were the pledges during Doha Accord. That needs to be seen once again. And we can't have this situation of dire consequences where civilian population is held hostage by medievalists of the Taliban. So therefore, I think all this diplomatic is to come once again to a new understanding of the situation. And therefore, the Security Council becomes extremely important. Yesterday, the Security Council issued a strong statement. Taliban use of force can amount to war crimes. Now, that was a big warning yesterday. And I think over here, Manas, the important thing is India as the presidency. I think India has an excellent opportunity, in fact, a duty to forcefully bring this into the Security Council and do its best to have powerful countries change their position to ensure that we don't have these medievalists running over entire country and violating human rights on an industrial scale, and in the process also opening the door for a regressive Pakistan to take full control of Afghanistan through its proxy, the Taliban. I think that is bad for the world. It is bad for the Central Asian republics, which are next door to Afghanistan. It is terrible for Russia to have the Talibs coming into their backyard. It's terrible for Iran and to have a situation where you once again have a radical international terror groups on its doorstep. So it suits no one except Pakistan to have this situation. And therefore, as a forceful voice in the Security Council, India needs to, and is already in fact doing it, to highlight the gravity of the situation. We in India, we have invested $3 billion in Afghanistan. And if we have Taliban taken over, look at this geographical situation of Afghanistan, Manas. We have Iran, West Asia opening on one side. We have Central Asia opening on the other side. We have South Asia opening on the other side. And if we have these radicals in a position of authority and such a strategic place, it's terrible for India's national interest. So I think we need to be very actively engaging diplomatically and otherwise to make sure that we don't land up in a situation where we have to face with such a harsh and regressive reality.
Mr. Aneja, as a keen observer of geopolitical developments, do you think, in fact, the United Nations Security Council has a role, in fact, apart from issuing a statement to just diffuse the crisis in Afghanistan, considering the fact that, in fact, the scale of violence is rapidly increasing, and there has been an assessment by India that, in fact, the scale of violence may go up further, in fact, once the U.S. completes the withdrawal of its troops by August 31st. So, I mean, do you see a voice of consensus in United Nations Security Council on the situation in Afghanistan, considering the fact that the U.S. has a slightly different position on Afghanistan compared to the position taken by the Moscow regime? So, Moscow generally, in fact, sees current President Ghani as somebody who is strongly backed by the U.S. And that is one point where Russia has been indicating that Mr. Ghani has to quit, though it has not announced it publicly. So do you see the United Nations Security Council unitedly coming out with a solution or a resolution on Afghanistan, considering the deterioration in the ground situation?
Manas, frankly, I think there is a thin chance of coming to a consensus. And the reason why I'm saying is that what was happening a month ago or even 15 days ago is not what is happening. Today, the Russians have mobilized their forces in Tajikistan. Russians, the Tajiks and the Uzbeks are holding joint exercises on the border because they know that you cannot have the Taliban spillover from Afghanistan into this region. So the Russian position, as I see it, evolved very rapidly. I agree that previously they had made these remarks and also talked about an accommodation with the Taliban, but I think Russians have woken up now and therefore are alive to this situation, and that is demonstrated by the use by the military presence on Afghanistan's doorstep in conjunction with forces from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan and under the CSTO, which is the collective security arrangement of Russia and its allies. So I don't see Russia now in the current situation as really the problem for arriving at a consensus on Afghanistan. In fact, we should also factor in the summit which took place between President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin. I think that there is a lot more in that meeting than meets the eye. So I do think that the American-Russian track has also opened up. This is also new, relatively new, let me put it that. To me, the biggest problem in the Security Council would be China. And why I say China is that China thinks it is foremost ally of Pakistan. And therefore, it will go along with Pakistan. And you've seen umpteen Taliban delegations going into China. One which happened just about, I think, 10 days ago when we had Mullah Baradar visiting Beijing. If China it comes to a conclusion that it will be in a leadership position along with Pakistan to change the paradigm in Afghanistan, to make sure that the West does not have an influence in this part of the world, that would be a problem. But I do think that similar voices should prevail in China, because if you do have a Taliban rule, then you are going to have problems in your Xinjiang province because these Uyghur fighters are going to get trained in Afghanistan and they will move across the Wakhan corridor into Xinjiang and create merry hell for the Chinese. So that is why I say that if saner voices prevail in China, it could also come round on a position of consensus. Frankly, Manus, there is no hope except the Security Council for a legal use of force to make sure that the Taliban is kept out and Pakistan shown its place. So it is difficult and it's not going to be easy, but that is where I think India's role will also have to come in very strongly here as to get a consensus work. I think the diplomats have to burn the midnight oil, right? Because the situation on the ground is deteriorated and the stakes are exceptionally high. So while it is difficult, but it is not impossible to get a consensus on certain key parameters on Afghanistan in the UN Security Council.
Yeah, final question, very quick question. In fact, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar yesterday, he warned that if the warfare in Afghanistan, if left unattended, it will be deeply felt not just in that country's neighborhood, but it will be felt beyond the neighborhood. So how do you see the comments and what are the dangers you see if the situation is not contained?
You know, the danger, Manas, is frankly not just what Mr. Jaishankar said, is just for the region, but for the world. After what happened after 1990, it led to a 9/11 attack in New York in the US Twin Towers because the Taliban would give sanctuary to other global terrorist groups. And this includes the ISIS, you have all the baddies from all places coming together. And these are international terrorists which have a certain political objective of creating a global caliphate. So you can well imagine what Mr. Jaishankar said is absolutely spot on, that it is a threat not only for us in the neighborhood or for the region, it is an international global threat. And therefore we come back again. This is the time when the Security Council, the collective voice of the world, has to step in and takes very determined and forceful steps to amend the situation and making sure that it doesn't deteriorate from where it is right now.
Thank you, Mr. Aneja, for your detailed perspective on the evolving situation in Afghanistan.
Chief of Staff of U.S. Army General James C. McConnell is on a two-day visit to India. On Wednesday, he laid a wreath at National War Memorial and received a Guard of Honor at the South Block. General McConnell called on Army Chief General M.M. Naravane and discussed issues of mutual interest. The Indo-Russia Joint Training Exercise Indra 2021 commenced at Prudvoy Ranges, Volgograd in Russia on Wednesday. It started an impressive opening ceremony that saw the unfurling of the national flags of both the countries. Exercise Indra 2021 will enhance interoperability between the Indian and Russian armies. The aim of the exercise is to facilitate joint training between Indian and Russian armies to jointly plan and conduct counter-terror operations under the United Nations mandate. The conduct of the exercise will also entail academic discussions between expert groups of both contingents. The exercise will focus on unit-level joint planning and conduct of anti-terrorist operations and will include cordon and search operations, intelligence gathering and sharing, perception management, humanitarian laws and hostage rescue in simulated settings.
Germany on Wednesday became the fifth country to sign International Solar Alliance Framework Agreement after amendments to it entered into force on 8 January this year, opening its membership to all the member states of the United Nations. On Wednesday, Ambassador of Germany to India, Walter J. Linder, deposited signed copies of International Solar Alliance Framework Agreement with Ministry of External Affairs, the depository of agreement. Signed copies of International Solar Alliance Framework Agreement were handed over to Additional Secretary Economic Relations in Ministry of External Affairs. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Welcome back to World News. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, has appointed Brunei's second Minister for Foreign Affairs, Erywan Yusof, as its special envoy to facilitate the mediation of the dialogue process in Myanmar. The appointment of the envoy from Brunei comes amid media reports of deep divisions with ASEAN countries on the issue. The announcement came in a joint communique issued after the 54th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meet on Wednesday, in which 10 countries, including Myanmar, took part virtually. The communique said that the special envoy will start his work in Myanmar, including building trust and confidence with full access to all parties concerned and providing a clear timeline on the implementation of the 5-point consensus reached in April during the meeting of ASEAN leaders. The Special Envoy will visit Myanmar to seek ways to end violence and open dialogue between all parties. He will also oversee a humanitarian aid package. The appointment of the Special Envoy for Myanmar was part of the 5-point consensus arrived at the meeting of ASEAN leaders held in April. The 5-point consensus includes cessation of violence in Myanmar, constructive dialogue among all parties to seek a peaceful solution, and appointment of a Special Envoy who will visit Myanmar to meet all parties concerned, among others. The communique issued on Wednesday, August 4, expressed concern over the situation in Myanmar and reports of fatalities and violence. It welcomed Myanmar's commitment to the 5-point consensus reached in the ASEAN leaders' meeting in April. India has administered over 48 crore 52 lakh doses of COVID vaccine so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. The Health Ministry said more than 62 lakh 53,000 vaccine doses were administered in the last 24 hours. A total of 36,668 patients recovered from COVID during the last 24 hours, and the national recovery rate stands at 97.37%.
Indian Cabinet has approved the Memorandum of Understanding MOU between Indian Institute of Space, Science and Technology IIST and the Delft University of Technology TU Delft, the Netherlands, for carrying out their academic programs and research activities. The parties may exchange students at undergraduate, postgraduate and doctoral level, and they will mutually discuss and decide the areas of studies and credits to be pursued under the scheme. The signed agreement will provide an impetus to explore newer research activities and application possibilities in the field of science and technology. A train crash near the Czech Republic-German border has killed at least 3 people and injured dozens more. According to the Czech Transport Minister, an express train from Munich heading to Prague went through a stop signal and hit a commuter train bound for the town of Domažlic. According to local media reports, both drivers were killed as well as 1 woman passenger. The collision took place on Wednesday near the village of Milavice, 140 kilometers southwest of the Czech capital, Prague. Dozens of emergency workers are on the scene, aided by helicopters. Rescue services have transported the more seriously injured to hospital. The Czech Republic's Railway Inspectorate has launched an investigation into the crash.
2 rockets launched from Lebanon struck Israel on Wednesday, the Israeli military said, adding that it fired artillery into Lebanese territory in response to the attack. In a statement, the military said 3 rockets were launched from Lebanon, with 1 falling short of the Israeli border and the other striking inside Israel. Witnesses in Lebanon also reported that several rockets were fired at Israel. In response, Israeli artillery forces attacked Lebanese territory. The military said the border has been mostly quiet since Israel fought a 2006 war against Hezbollah guerrillas, who have sway in southern Lebanon and advanced rockets. And now a report from the business world.
The Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange jumped 546 points or 1% to close at a new record high of 54,370. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange rose 128 points or 0.8% to also end at a new all-time high of 16,259. At the Forex market, the rupee strengthened 9 paisa to 74 rupees and 19 paisa against the dollar. Among the global markets, most key indices in Asia ended higher on encouraging corporate earnings. China's Shanghai Composite Index and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index gained 0.9% each. South Korea's Kospi Index jumped 1.3% and Singapore's Straits Times Index rose 1.1%, but Japan's Nikkei 225 Index dropped 0.2%. In Europe, markets rose to record highs as investors focused on upbeat quarterly earnings and a strong rebound in merger activity despite concerns about the global spread of the Delta variant of coronavirus. London's FTSE 100 gained 0.4%, France's CAC 40 had climbed 0.5%, and Germany's DAX had surged 0.9% in intraday trade. Brent crude oil futures declined 99 cents to $71.42 a barrel. Back home, gold rose 330 rupees to 48,147 per 10 grams on the multi-commodity exchange. Anubha Rohatgi for World News, All India Radio.
In Tokyo Olympic, boxer Lavlina Borgohain has bagged a bronze medal in welterweight 69 kg category after she lost to the world champion Basnel Surmaneli of Turkey in semi-finals on Wednesday. This is the third medal for the country. Earlier, in a tweet, the Prime Minister said her success in the boxing ring inspires several Indians. Indian Sports Minister Anurag Thakur has congratulated and said Lavlina gave her best punch and India is extremely proud of what she has achieved.
एक और भारत की बेटी ने शानदार प्रदर्शन किया है। अब तक के 3 मेडल और तीनों ही भारत की बेटियों के नाम। लवलीना का पहला ओलंपिक्स था, लेकिन उसके बावजूद शानदार उन्होंने अपना प्रदर्शन किया। अपना अच्छा प्रदर्शन कर भारत के लिए एक और कांस्य पदक जीता है। मैं सभी देशवासियों की ओर से, भारत सरकार की ओर से उनको बहुत-बहुत बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देता हूं।
Earlier, PV Sindhu won a bronze medal in badminton while Mirabai Chanu lifted a silver medal in weightlifting. India's Ravi Dahiya has assured at least a silver medal as he secured a place in the final of men's freestyle 57 kg wrestling category. He defeated Nur Islam Sanayev of Kazakhstan in semi-finals 9-7 on Wednesday. However, in another semi-final, Deepak Punia lost to Taylor 3 David Morris of USA in 86 kg category by 10-0. However, Anshu Singh lost to Irina Kurachakina of Belarus in women's freestyle 57 kg. Indian women wrestler Vinesh Phogat will start her campaign on Thursday in a clash with Sofia Magdalena Mattsson of Sweden in the 53 kg category. India lost to Argentina by 2-1 in semi-final women's hockey match on Wednesday. Now Argentina will clash with Netherlands in the summit clash on Thursday for the gold medal at 3:30 p.m. Indian Eves will meet Germany team on Friday at 7 a.m. for bronze medal. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with women's hockey captain Rani Rampal and coach Georges Marianne. He expressed pride at the performance of the women's hockey team. He said that wins and losses are a part of life and they must not be disheartened. Indian men's hockey team will take on Great Britain for a bronze medal on Thursday. In golf, Aditi Ashok did fairly well when she got tied at second rank 4 under par, while Diksha Dagar tied at 56th rank 5 over par after first round. Promising athlete Neeraj Chopra sealed an automatic qualification for the men's javelin throw finals by throwing 86.65 meters in his first attempt. However, fellow javelin thrower Shivpal Singh failed to cross the qualification hurdle with his best throw of 76.40 meters. Men's javelin throw final will take place on 7th August at 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. In the opening cricket test match of 5-match series, England were all out for 183 runs in the first innings against India on day 1 at Trent Bridge in Nottingham. In reply, India were 21 for no loss when reports last came in. Earlier, England captain Joe Root won the toss and elected to bat first. For India, Jasprit Bumrah claimed 4 wickets while Mohammad Shami bagged 3 wickets.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Gulf Times says that UN Security Council calls for immediate cessation of violence in Afghanistan. The Guardian says Oman confirms tanker boarded off UAE was target of hijacking incident. Washington Post writes, Biden tells governors to get out of the way if they won't help on vaccines. Sputnik News posts, Elon Musk praises amazing Russian rocket engine designs. And Financial Times says Spain urges EU to act on soaring energy prices. A quick look at the headlines once again. UN Security Council condemns attack on UN premises in Herat, calls on Islamic Republic and the Taliban to engage meaningfully in an inclusive peace process. Chief of Staff of US Army General James C. McConnell arrives in India on a 2-day visit. Germany becomes 5th country to sign International Solar Alliance Framework Agreement. In Tokyo Olympics, Indian wrestler Ravi Dahiya beat Nur Islam Sanayev of Kazakhstan in freestyle 57 kg men's semi-finals, ensures a medal. Boxer Lavlina Borgohain bags bronze medal in welterweight category. Athlete Neeraj Chopra qualifies for men's javelin throw finals. And Indian men's hockey team to take on Great Britain for a bronze medal on Thursday. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Belgium. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.